Okay, my friends, come on. Now we are now with our dear friend, brother Roland. Amazing story. As I started listening to his story, I want my viewers to see his story, listen, and get spiritual lessons. By the way, don't forget subscribing to this channel. I created Ronald's channel and click the button there, subscribe, and you get more videos in the days to come. And today, let's listen his marriage story. In the earlier videos, you can see and observe his childhood days and his college days, and of course high school. Really amazing. You were really energized, empowered, and even we talked about dating and the temptations. Even in his age, way back in 1969 and 70, even today, the times have changed, but the concepts are same. People had their own temptations, but here is a man who overcame, and by the anointing of the Spirit of God, and now he is serving the Lord faithfully. He has an amazing wisdom to pass on to the next generations. Come on, let's listen to him. Roland, we are really excited today.
We're excited to be a part of this.
Would you please share your honeymoon days, or it's kind of how you got your wife, and we want to know that story.
Well, that story is going to start about 1974.
74. I was born that time, 1974.
You're really making me feel old. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary.
Awesome.
But Donna didn't go to our church in Saginaw.
So your wife, Donna.
Donna.
Okay.
She was Donna Dickinson then.
Mm-hmm.
And her uncle was one of our elders in the church at Saginaw.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought a friend of his to the church, and it was Pat. I couldn't call her last name right. Hello?
Young.
Pat Young. Well, Pat Young and Sister Pierce saw that I was dating a lot of girls, and I was getting serious on them, and they both felt implied both to begin to pray. Roland, find the right woman to date and marry. They sensed something that I didn't. I knew that God was dealing in my life and leading, but I wasn't thinking marriage or anything. But they were looking ahead, seeing where I needed someone to share the ministry with. Share what God had showed me and called us. Well, a friend of mine, Ernest Baker, he was an older a teenager like myself. We heard that there was a gospel singing going to be in Bridgeport, Texas, at the First Assembly of God there. And the Galileans were going to be there, which we all loved the Galileans back then. And I said, yeah, we'll go. Let's go that Saturday night to their singing. So, behind my back, without me knowing, Pat Young and Sister Pierce thought, hey, this would be a great place for him to meet Melvin Lemis, which was her uncle. A great time and a place to meet him. So you have to remember this too. This is in Texas in August, and the temperature was probably around 105 degrees outside. We drove up the 40 miles to Bridgeport, and we went in just right before the singing got started, and we were sitting there. Pat Young and her husband Claiborne were sitting in front of us. And I said, "Is she here yet?" Because she had told me, "I want you to meet this girl."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Nope, she's not here yet. We don't know why." Singing got started. Maybe about 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the program, she leaned around. She said, "She just walked in the door." And I turned my head around and I looked. And I'm going to tell you, it wasn't love at first sight.
I was about to say that. It was a
No,
love at first sight.
it wasn't love at first sight. What I didn't know, her and her dad and her mother and their family had went to Grand Prairie, Texas, on the other side of Arlington. And in August, they had no air conditioning in their car. And Donna at that time had hair down past her hips. It was so long. And she was wearing a long double knit material, long sleeves. And when she walked in, her hair was all wind blown because they had the windows down and they were trying to get there for that singing. And she walked in, and like I said, 105 degrees, no air conditioning, wind blown. Her hair was a mess. And the long dress and that, I looked around at Kleber and Pat Young, and I said, there ain't no way I'm going to date that girl.
You didn't like?
No, I did not like.
No, as you described, it looked like an Indian girl covering the whole body with the hair.
Well, in those days, and if my wife was able to tell it, she'd say that was how she was raised.
Awesome.
Pentecost, holiness, and long sleeves, long hair, no makeup. I guess the only jewelry she had at that time was a watch, her senior ring, and a bracelet her brother had gave to her. That was probably about the only jewelry she had. Well, I went home. Pat said, "What did you think of her?" I said, no.
Not good looking.
No. She was not. No. She was not an ugly girl, but the way she dressed, it just wasn't what I was looking for. Well, she had graduated high school that year. That was in the 1st of August. And I believe the end of August, she came down to visit her uncle and aunt in Blue Mound, which was right across the railroad tracks from Saginaw. And she was driving back with her mother. Her mother was driving. And they drove by the Dairy Queen, a little cafe here in Saginaw. And it had a sign on the window, help wanted. She went in, talked to the manager, filled out her application, got a job right then and there.
Okay.
Said, "Can you be at work?" I think it was just a few days later. She said, "Well, yeah, I can." And you have to realize she was living in Paradise, which is a little town this side of Bridgeport, almost 40 miles away from Saginaw. She didn't live here. She didn't have a car. But she said, "I'll accept the job." And the manager accepted her. So they left there and went back to her uncle and aunt's house and asked, told her that she had got a job. She was out of high school. Could she live with them? And Melvin, her uncle, said, "Yes, you can." Now you have to remember, Melvin was an elder, a trustee in our church at the Saginaw Assembly of God. And Donna had been a member at Bridgeport Assembly of God. and she came down to live with them. Well, the first thing they do on Sunday, come to church. And they said, Roland will be there. She said, Roland who?
Ah.
She said, are you talking about the song leader that's down there? Yeah. Well, and this is her words, and I can quote them by heart. I'm not going to date no bald-headed song leader. She felt that way about me the same way I felt about her. I'm not dating him.
By then you had bald head already.
Oh yes, I've been losing my hair since I
20.
was in high school. Started losing it. It was a trait of my mom's family, which I told my wife, or told Donna later. She said, where did you get your baldness from? I said, my mother. Well, later on, she told me, she said, all I could get in my head was a picture of your mother, bald-headed, which she wasn't. But anyhow, I would led the song service, and at that same time, we were building a church, the brand new church in Saginaw. And I wasn't working, wasn't going to school. The Lord had led me to help Brother Pierce.
Building the church.
Building the church during the day. We would go to the lot.
You have to say you dropped out of college.
I dropped out of college for that too. I was in college. And I told my dad and them, I'm out. I'm going to help Brother Pierce. He says, you know, you won't have any insurance anymore.
Why in those days, students, they stop at 12, they don't want to go college? Or what's that?
A lot of them, most of them all wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to college, but when Brother Pierce said he was going to be building the church, I'd been praying about it, and God said, trust me. Just work with the pastor. And I learned so many things building that church, because the men of the church built it. We didn't hire a construction crew to come in. Brother Pierce was the only man that had any education or knowledge to build. So he drew the plans up. We cleared the land. We dug the ditches. We laid the rebar for the foundation. We were going to put the foundation in. But a group of men came by and said, we're without a job right now, but we're concrete people. And they quoted a price way below what we could have even tried ourselves doing. And they did it. And I was still being song leader. We'd still go to church on Wednesday nights. We'd go in our working clothes, prayer meeting, working clothes. Only day we didn't work was on Sunday. But we worked all day with him from 7 in the morning till the sun went down. We took every minute of sunlight.
It's a voluntary service.
So, do what, sir?
It's a voluntary service, free service.
It was volunteer. Every man in the church and their kids helped dig the ditches, break the rock, get all of the metal, all of the things done. And then when we got the slab in, we started up with our walls. And him and I would lay out all during the day what was going to be done and accomplished. We would nail all of the framing together. We'd go pick up the lumber in Keller. We would build the church. Then as the men around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock came along, here would come a truck or a car driving in. Another worker, one of the men, coming in to do something. We'd show them what we did, and we put the walls up. Then we even put the rafters in. Rafters we didn't have to build. They were pre-built, but we had to get them up. And these were all in God's timing. We built a church on cash. No debt. The only thing when we had dedication of that church,
Mm.
which our church, the old church, we sold
Mm.
to a little Baptist church.
Mhm.
The little Baptist church was willing to pay what we had
Mm.
on it, with one condition.
Mm.
Now you have to remember, we had dedication or had groundbreaking the last Sunday in August.
Mm.
Their condition was, we want to be in this white church on McElroy or Watauga Road. We want to be in it by Christmas, by December.
Mm.
This is August,
Target.
September, October,
No.
November.
This-
We had 5 months
Mm.
to be in a building.
Mhm.
And what I mean, from the first spade in the dirt.
Okay, come back to your story. As with the working
Working with-
dress, you're coming to the church and how you
And we
met
did
her.
all of that.
Mhm.
And Donna came one time. She came from work. She lived with her uncle, but she loved her Uncle Melvin so much
Mm.
that she came every afternoon after she got off work
Mhm.
On the dilly bar.
and said, Uncle Melvin, would you like a dilly bar? Which was an ice cream
Yeah.
at the Dairy Queen. He said, sure. Well, all of us other guys that were up on that building,
Mm.
because we had it in,
Working.
we were working on the roof at that time. We all said, yeah, we'd like some ice cream too, or a drink. She'd
Yeah.
take her order. She'd drive back down
Mm.
to the Dairy Queen, get it, and come back. Well, this one day,
Mhm.
she came back and she was handing all the stuff up. She had to climb up the ladder
Mhm.
to get to the roof where we were.
Mm.
And she was not coming on the roof.
Mm.
Somebody was going to have to go get the stuff from her.
Mm.
So all of the men in that church decided,
Mm.
Roland,
You should go.
you go over and get it from Donna. So I went over and she'd hand it to me. I thanked her. She'd say, Uncle Melvin, I love you. And she'd leave.
Mm.
Well, that ugly girl,
Mm.
that hot-headed,
Mm.
dressed
Mm.
holiness
Mm.
little girl
Mhm.
started looking a little better to me.
Mhm.
So that next Sunday evening after church, I said, Donna, no. Yeah, I had called her. I called her on Saturday and said, would you like to go get a Coke?
Mm.
Nope. I'm watching a movie with my uncle.
Mm.
She hung up.
Mm.
I thought, that's terrible.
Mm.
I've never heard a girl say she wouldn't go to get a Coke or
Mm.
go someplace like that. So this went on for about 2 or 3 weeks. I did get her to go get a Coke, and we drove. The first time she rode in my car, she rode over and we got to the little cafe, and it was in River Oaks. And when we got there, we went to the drive-thru, got the drinks, pulled over about 20 feet from the drive-thru, and believe it or not, I didn't run out of gas, but we had a flat tire. So I said, your uncle's not going to believe us. There was no cell phones in those days. There was a payphone.
Uh-huh.
So I said, you call your uncle and tell him we have a flat. She told him, and he laughed. So we got back. That next week, she didn't talk to me. I didn't talk to her. And we were still working at the church building. But it was the first Saturday in November. We heard that the Happy Goodmans, a Southern gospel group, was going to be in concert at Will Rogers at the Battle of Songs. Now you have to realize this was the 1st of November. So I called her up and she's on the phone. Now you got to remember, she had already said no to go get a Coke and get me home fast because we had all of the trouble. She wouldn't talk to me, but I said, Donna, I'm going to ask you a question. Would you go to the Battle of Songs with me? The Happy Goodmans are going to be there. Well, it wasn't 1 second went by on that phone. It wasn't, no, I won't. It was, yes, I'll go to the Battle of Songs to watch the Happy Goodmans with anybody. So we had our first date at the Battle of Songs. November the 2nd. We, from that night and on, she was hooked and I was hooked. Because we talked on the phone. I left cards in the mailbox, notes, I love you, XOXOXO, X and kisses, love and kisses. We had our date that night. Then Thanksgiving came along about 3 weeks later. Well, we had Thanksgiving. We had Thanksgiving at my mom and dad's house. We went to her mom and dad's house. We went to her grandmother's house up on the hill in Paradise. Then we came back to Fort Worth to my grandmother's house. We had Thanksgiving 4 times. But we got back to Melvin and Margie's home in Blue Mound, and we're sitting there, and it starts raining. And we're talking, and I usually add this, and she gets upset at me. I say, we did what every teenager would do, or a young person. We sat there and we talked. We kissed. And we'd kissed. And I looked over at her. I said, you know, will you marry me? There was a little hesitation and a little pause. It was more than 2 seconds. She said, yeah, I think I will. Now, we'd only dated basically 3 dates and a lot of phone calls. But I asked a girl that I didn't really even know anything about her family other than her uncle to marry me. She said yes. So she went home, and her cousin Rhonda said, How did your day go? Went great. She said, what else happened? Now Rhonda was younger. And she looked at me, she looked at her and she said, he asked me to marry you. And Rhonda giggled and said, did you accept? Yeah, I did. So the next day we went looking for rings. Found it, got it. A promise ring, not even an engagement ring. She got me to get her a promise ring. Then we went and tried to figure out when we're going to get married. She picks the month April. We'd only known each other from August, when I said I wouldn't date that girl. There ain't no way. To November, I said, now, will you marry me? She said yes.
Before you ask her, will you marry me, did you inform your parents that I'm going to ask this girl? Or anything?
No, no one knew anything. They knew I was dating this girl. I don't believe at that time she had even, other than at the Thanksgiving dinner, I believe it was the first time she met my family. And then that night, she met my grandparents, part of my grandparents. There was a rush, dating, courtship, and then she sets the date for April 19th.
Tell about the night
Oh, she just asked me to remember the time I met her father the first time. Well, the first time was right after I had asked her to marry, other than the dinner up there, and he didn't say much to me. Because you have to realize he protected his girls, his daughters. And Donna was one of his chosen favorite ones. He had a garden. She was the only daughter or only child that could go to his garden with him. Because his garden was his prayer chapel. That's another story that we don't even need to get into. But he was a man of prayer. Her mother was a song leader. I loved them both. But Miss Dickinson was a woman that I could sit with and listen and talk to. And many a times we would play a domino game of 42. It's usually men against women. No, not for me. I had to have Miss Dickinson. Donna had her daddy. And we'd whip them up one side and down the other. Won the games. But first time we were going to go up to the house and be there, not for a special occasion, but just for Sunday lunch. All of the men that I talked about a while ago on the roof, they said, now Roland, Mr. Dickinson is very protective of his daughters. You're going to have to ask him, can she marry you?
Yeah.
And then one of the men, Jim Van Hoos, my best man in my wedding, he said, Roland, just remember, Mr. Dickinson has a shotgun. And he knows how to use it.
He's a sharpshooter.
And I went to the house with her. We rode up that Sunday after church. Had lunch. And Mr. Dickinson wasn't in there. He didn't have lunch with us. And I'm thinking, this doesn't look good. Now you have to get this picture also. They lived in a single wide, it was 14 feet by 80 foot long, I believe, single wide trailer home. And they had a front room door, a back door over in the back bedroom, and a front door getting into the front living room, and another one down close to where Mr. and Miss Dickinson's bedroom was. And the couch in their living room looked straight down this hall at that bedroom. Now you have to remember, what does Jim Van Hoos, he said, just remember, he has a shotgun and he's protective of his daughters. Well, what I didn't know, Mr. Dickinson had been out in the garden getting rid of some gophers and skunks. And he was shooting them. That's why he sat down there and missed lunch.
He was ready with the gun.
He was ready.
Only to
what I didn't know, he was there. But when I looked down that hall, they said, here comes Dad. He comes in the door and he's holding
gun.
His 22 shotgun in his hand. And I looked over at Donna and said, your daddy has a gun. She said, yeah, and he knows how to use it. I'm thinking, I've got to ask this man to marry his daughter. It's comical now, but beads of sweat was coming off of me at that time. So he comes in, he sits down in his chair, and Donna says, go ahead and ask him. Donna's mother says, go ahead and ask him. And she says, James, Roland has a question for you. He's sitting there holding this gun still. And I look at him, I said, I would like to marry your daughter if you'll let me. He picked up the shotgun, and I'm thinking, I'm dead meat in this chair. He lays the shotgun to the side, and he looks up, and he says, well, do you love her? I said, yes, sir, I do. Will you take care of her? Yes, sir. When are y'all thinking about getting married? I said, she said in April, which was only a few months away. He said, well, he looked at her, said, do you love him? She just nods her head. She doesn't say yes, no, or maybe. Just nod of her head. He said, okay. He looks over and says, you can marry her.
You got a green signal.
The agreement was there. I quit sweating. I was still shaking, but I quit sweating. So I got back down here and I told Brother Pierce, I just proposed to. I didn't tell my parents. I told Brother Pierce that night in service. Her daddy said I could marry her. He said, well, you know what you're getting into? And he set me down like a daddy. He said, this is what you're going to be getting into. And I came home, told Mom and Dad that he'd said yes. I got another lecture, another sitting down. And come April the 19th, we were married. I was 22. Donna had just turned 20 on April the 9th.
10th.
Oh, April the 10th, I'm sorry.
You're in trouble.
I'm in trouble now. I missed my wife's birthday date. But I did not know her brothers. But her older brother, that was an Assembly of God preacher, had looked at Donna and told her when she was younger, you'll be an old maid before you get married. Because she was set in her ways and she wasn't going to be changed. But she looked at him and said, I'll be married by 20, by the age of 20. Well, I didn't know the reason she picked April the 19th. Found out later. She turned 20 April the 10th. And said, I was married when I was 20. I wasn't an old maid. So that has been a running joke when I talk to any couple getting married. I look at the groom and I say, do you know what the date of your marriage is going to be? Yeah. Do you know your wife's birthday? Yeah. Are they in the same month? If they're in the same month, change the wedding date. Because a birthday within 2 weeks of your a birthday and then an anniversary. I tell them that's awful hard to do. But we've accomplished it for 50 years now. And our love from her has stood firm to the wedding vows. She's honored me. I've honored her. She's loved me. I've loved her in sickness, both ways. And in health. And in hard times and good times. Our wedding has stayed together because of, I go back to it again, because of God, because of the prayers.
I think we will give a break to our viewers now. Just few minutes. Get ready and come back again. We will hear the story of how Roland's honeymoon and the early stages of family life. And take a break and come back, my friends.
I know that was a long